Hare Krishna, good evening. Omahyanatimarandasya Chinandala Shlakya Shaksharan Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. We will discuss now the last verses of the 18th chapter of the Gita and conclude the Gita. That last session we finished with Lord Krishna giving us the most confidential knowledge, which is Man Mana Bhagma Bhakto Machi Mam Namaskar Mama Vaishasa Satyam Te Pratijani Prayosi Me. Krishna said there is no one more dear than one who fixes his mind on me, becomes my devotee. So one who becomes my devotee, Krishna says, and one who worships me and offers his respect to me, and then Sarvadamam Prachya Mamkam Samvacham Tvam Sarva Papabhyo Mokshishim Matre. Do not worry, Krishna says, just surrender to me. I will take care of all your past karma and so on. But is that the end of the supreme instruction? No. It continues until text 69. After surrendering, Krishna wants us to preach that, and that's explained in the following verses. And then after that, Arjuna says, yes, I'm convinced that I will follow your instructions. Then we will go back to Sanjay, the secretary of Dhritarashtra. And Sanjay will predict and tell Dhritarashtra that there will be victory for Arjuna, because he is a supreme archer who is surrendered to Krishna, and Krishna is the master of all mystics. So that's a summary of this last section. We will now go over it in more detail. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Idam te na tapaskaya na bhaktaya kadachana na sasusrusave vacham na samanyo vyasuyati. This confidential knowledge may never be explained to those who are not austere or devoted or engaged in devotional service, nor to one who is envious of me. So, not austere, not devoted, and not engaged in devotional service, and those who are envious of me. So Krishna clearly excludes the non-devotees from understanding Bhagavad Gita. That is an essential point that comes back. And understanding Bhagavad Gita is done by hearing from the spiritual master and then turning it into realized knowledge. And that realized knowledge is what Krishna gives to the heart. Tadami buddhiyogam tam. He gives us the realization. He gives it to the realization when we serve him with love. And the non-devotees, they cannot do that, and they can only get a superficial understanding of the Gita. That Srila Prabhupada explains this in the purport at the end. Actually, the purpose of Bhagavad Gita is not understandable to those who are sensuous. Even if one is not sensuous but strictly following the principles enjoined in the Vedic scripture, if he is not a devotee, he also cannot understand Krishna. Even when one poses himself as a devotee of Krishna but is not engaged in Krishna conscious activity, he also cannot understand Krishna. There are many persons who are envious of Krishna. Such persons should not be told of Bhagavad Gita, for they cannot understand. So the envious cannot understand. They will make offenses when you try to approach them. So there is no possibility of faithless persons understanding Bhagavad Gita and Krishna. Without understanding Krishna from the authority of a pure devotee, one should not try to comment on Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna does not want us to preach to the non-devotees that those who are envious of Krishna. Just a moment. Internet connection is unstable, it comes up and off. But yes, sometimes devotees want to be more compassionate than Krishna and still give this knowledge one way or another, but sometimes it may have heavy reactions, you see, because we may want, but Krishna does not want it, as he expresses here in this verse 68, that Yaidam paramam kuryam mat bhakti sabhidisyati bhakti mai param kritva mami vasyata samsaya. For one who explains the supreme secret to the devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed, and at the end he will come back to me. But Krishna encourages us to preach to the ignorant, and to those who are trying to become devotees, and to the devotees that so in other words, we should preach to those who are willing to accept Krishna as a Supreme Lord, who are not against God, who are willing to accept God as authority. That we should not preach to those who do not want to be instructed by us. That's important. That in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes at the end, Bhagavad Gita should be explained to persons who are ready to accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is a subject matter for the devotees only and not for philosophical speculators. Anyone, however, who tries sincerely to present Bhagavad Gita as it is will advance in devotional service and reach pure devotional, the pure devotional state of life. That as a result of such pure devotion is sure to go back home, back to Godhead. So pure devotional service is guaranteed for one who preaches. Very important. And that is a spiritual law. Spiritual laws are different from material laws. On material platform, you give something away and you get rid of it. But in Krishna consciousness, if you just try to give Krishna consciousness to others, then Krishna gives you the realization from within. That's important. After surrendering, preach. And that's the way to advance. That pleases Krishna. That pleases Krishna very much. And he says that in the next verse, that there is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be more dear. And I declare that he who studies this sacred conversation of ours will worship me with his intelligence. So Krishna said that there will be no one more dear. But one can say, yes, well, preaching, but I'm not a good preacher. But Srila Prabhupada gave us a whole preaching mission. The whole ISKCON movement, Hare Krishna movement, is there to preach. So if you go to the temple and you clean the temple floor, you are connected with this preaching mission. If you cook in the temple for the Sunday feast, you are connected with this mission. That's also preaching. Make sure you are one way or another connected with the preaching. Grihasthas can open their house for programs that we need temple, so many namahatas and so many preaching groups, that Bhakta Vriksha programs and so on. So be connected with the mission. And Srila Prabhupada speaks about his mission and his missionary mood in text 71 in the purport. But I'll first read 71, that and one who listens with faith and without envy becomes free from all sinful reactions and attains auspicious planets where the pious dwell. So Srila Prabhupada writes, but it so happens that sometimes the devotee of the Lord will hold open class. And in that class, not all the students are expected to be devotees. Why do such persons hold open class? It is explained here that although not everyone is a devotee, still there are many men who are not envious of Krishna. They have faith in him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If such person hear from a bona fide devotee about the Lord, the result is that they become at once free from all sinful reaction, and that after that they attain the planetary systems where all righteous persons are situated. Therefore, simply by hearing Bhagavad Gita, even a person who does not try to be a pure devotee attain the results of righteous activities. Thus, a pure devotee of the Lord gives everyone a chance to become free from all sinful reactions and to become a devotee of the Lord. Generally, those who are free from sinful reactions, those who are righteous, very easily take to Krishna consciousness. At the end, those who are righteous in performing devotional service but who are not pure can attain the planetary systems of the pole star or Dhruva Loka, where Dhruva Loka is presiding. Here is a great devotee of the Lord, and he has a special planet. It's called the pole star. Interesting. So the devotee is more merciful than the Lord, and sometimes they preaches to non-devotees, trying to give everyone a chance to become purified, and so that they also can become devotees. Text 72. Kachitte tachutam partha Tvayakagana Sheta Shakachitzayana Sama Panachaste Dhananjaya. So Lord Krishna is asking now a question to Arjuna. He has spoken the entire Bhagavad Gita and he says, O son of Pritha, O conqueror of wealth, have you heard this with an attentive mind, and are your ignorance and illusions now dispelled? So, yes, Arjuna. So, Krishna takes a position as Arjuna's guru and is asking Arjuna, did you understand the instructions? Because he was ready to re-explain Bhagavad Gita. But if Arjuna would still be confused. So in the purport, Actually, anyone who hears Bhagavad Gita from a bona fide spiritual master like Krishna or his representative will find that all this ignorance is dispelled. Any person fortunate enough to hear these teachings from Krishna or from his bona fide spiritual representative is sure to become a liberated person and get out of the darkness of ignorance. So, after that Arjuna replies, Arjuna vacha nastamo asmiti labdat vat prasadamaya shuta stitamikata sandhya krishe vachanam tava. Arjuna said, my dear Krishna, infallible one, my illusion is now gone. I've regained my memory by your mercy. I am now firm and free from doubt and prepared to act according to your instructions. So Arjuna says, I'm convinced Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and I'm Krishna's servant. Therefore I give up my independent ideas and I agree to act according to Krishna's desire. So he remembered his constitutional position, and Srila Prabhupada writes about that in the purport. The constitutional position of a living entity represented by Arjuna is that he has to act according to the order of the Supreme Lord. Yes, to act according to the order of the Supreme Lord is meant for self-discipline. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that the actual position of the living entity is that of an eternal servant of the Supreme Lord. Forgetting that principle, living entity becomes conditioned by material nature. But in serving the Supreme Lord, he becomes the liberated servant of God. So the first offense we have ever made is to forget that we are a servant of Krishna. So the living entity's constitutional position is to be a servitor. He has to serve either the illusory Maya or the Supreme Lord. In illusion, living entity is serving in this material world. He is bound by lust and desires, yet he thinks himself as the master of the Lord. This is called illusion. When a person is liberated, his illusion is over and he voluntarily surrenders unto the Supreme to act according to his desire. The last illusion, the last snare of Maya, is a trap that the living entity is the proposition that he is God. The living entity thinks that he is no longer a conditioned soul, but God. Actually, to become free from the illusory energy is to understand Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and agree to act according to his order. The word moha is very important in this verse. Moha refers to that which is opposed to knowledge. Actually, real knowledge is understanding that every living being is the eternal servitor of the Lord. But instead of thinking oneself in that position, the living entity thinks that he is not a servant, that he is the master of this material world. Further, Krishna consciousness is acting according to Krishna's order. That we should always remember. Krishna's plan to reduce the unnecessary increase of population, that was Krishna's plan. And Arjuna now agreed to fight according to Krishna's desire. 74. Now we are going back to Sanjay. Bhagavad Gita is finished, and Sanjay told everything he heard in his vision to Dhritarashtra. He says, Sanjaya Vacha, Ityam Vasudevasya Partasya Samahatmana, Samvardam imam ashrasham adbhutam Roma arshanam. He said, Sanjay said, thus I have heard the conversation of these two great souls, Krishna and Arjuna. And so wonderful is that message that my hair is standing on end. So if we follow in the footsteps of Arjuna to understand Krishna, then our life will be happy, Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport. Happy and successful. Sanjaya realized this as he began to understand this. He related the conversation to Dhritarashtra. 75. Vyasa prasada shruttavan etagoyamaham param yogam yogesvara Krishna sakshakatayata svayam. By the mercy of Vyasa, I have heard these most confidential talks directly from the master of all mysticism, Krishna, who was speaking personally to Arjuna. So Arjuna had heard the Bhagavad Gita directly from Krishna. So we can also hear directly by hearing Krishna's words from a pure devotee. And Srila Prabhupada explains this in the purport. That means, Srila Prabhupada said, one has to understand Krishna not directly, but through the medium of the spiritual master. The spiritual master is a transparent medium, although it is true that the experience is still direct. This is the mystery of the disciplic succession. When the spiritual master is bona fide, then one can hear Bhagavad Gita directly as Arjuna heard it. Krishna's instruction explicitly stated in Bhagavad Gita, surrender unto Krishna. One who does so is the topmost yogi. And then at the end, actually there is no difference between hearing directly from Krishna and hearing directly from Krishna via a bona fide spiritual master like Vyasa. The spiritual master is representative of Vyasadeva also. Therefore, according to the Vedic system, on the birthday of the spiritual master, the disciple conducts a ceremony called Vyasa Puja. That's interesting. That is mentioned here. 76. Racham samsmitya samvadam idam adbhutam kesavaryunayo punyam ishani samuh. O Krishna, I repeatedly recall this wondrous and only holy dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna. I take pleasure being thrilled as every moment. The samvadam is here message. Samvadam means also, it's a conversation, a discussion, which is very beneficial, samvadam. That you have in logic, you have debates and so on, but that's a different category here. You have different names, Vitonda, and that's trying to defeat each other. But that is not so beneficial. That the real conversation is beneficial if it's between the spiritual master or the pure devotee and the disciple. So the result of Krishna consciousness that one becomes is that one becomes increasingly enlightened and he enjoys life with a thrill, not only for some time but at every moment. So it's 77. Dasa samsmitya rupanat adbhutam mare vishmayo me moham rajan ishami sa puna. O King, as I remember the wonderful form of Lord Krishna, I am struck with wonder more and more, and I rejoice it again and again. So by hearing Bhagavad Gita, we can experience Krishna's association and become increasingly enlightened and relish spiritual happiness at every moment. Now the last verse, Yatra Yogeshvaro Krishna, Yatra Parto Danuda, Tatra Shirvachiro Bhutir Trufanitir Matir Mama. Wherever there is Krishna, the master of all mystic, and wherever there is Arjuna, the supreme archer, there will also be opulence, victory, extraordinary power and morality. That is my opinion. So, in answer to Dhritarashtra's question, Sanjay gives his opinion. And his opinion is that victory will be on the side of Arjuna and Krishna. So just a moment. And so we have 4 principles. In this Bhagavad Gita, we have discussed 4 principal topics. We have discussed Prakriti, material nature, then the Kshatraya, the Jiva, the living entities, Kala, time, and different kinds of activities, karma. So these different subjects, these 4 subjects, they have shown to be different and non-different from the 5th subject, Krishna. It's non-different because it comes from him, it are his energies. But still his energies are different from the source of the energies. So the highest morality is given here in Bhagavad Gita at the end. Surrender to Krishna, because Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If we surrender to Krishna, we can attain a blissful position in the spiritual world. Now, yes, I will read from this last purport a few short excerpts which gives the essence of the purport. Sanya told the king, "You are thinking of victory, but in my opinion, that where Krishna and Arjuna are present, there will be good fortune." Further, some may protest that Krishna incited Arjuna to fight, which is immoral, but the reality of the situation is clearly stated. Bhagavad Gita is the supreme instruction in morality. The supreme instruction of morality is stated in the 9th chapter, in the 34th verse. Manmana bhavmadbhakto. One must become a devotee of Krishna, and the essence of all religion is to surrender to Krishna. Sarvadam prajna mam kam samvacha. So you have, essence of morality is to think of Krishna, become his devotee, and the essence of religion is to surrender to him. The instruction of Bhagavad Gita constitutes the supreme process of religion and morality. So from Bhagavad Gita we understand that to realize oneself by philosophical speculation and by meditation is one process, but to surrender to Krishna is the highest perfection. And a little further, the actual truth is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Absolute truth is realized in 3 features: Brahman, Paramatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan. So that were the 3 levels, confidential levels. 1854, Brahman; 1861, Paramatma realization; 1865 and 66, Bhagavan realization. Perfect realization of the Absolute Truth means knowledge of Krishna, Bhagavan. and Bhagavan realization includes the realization of Paramatma and Brahman. So in Bhagavad Gita, 5 principal subject matters have been discussed: the Supreme Personality of Godhead, material nature, living entities, eternal time, and all kinds of activities. So that's a child can understand that thinking. I gave once a presentation in an Avanti school in England, and the children were 5 years old, and I had to speak about Bhagavad Gita, and I was speaking about these 5 subject matters. But after that, I asked the children, tell me, what does it mean? So I told them, Ishvara, what does it mean? And one child said Krishna, very simple. And then I said Jiva, and another child said, that's us. And then I asked Prakriti, and another child said, that's all around us. Then I asked Karma. Another child said, that's what we do. And then I asked about Kala. And a young boy said, I'm coming always too late in school. So a child can understand these subject matters. And that's what Bhagavad Gita explains and how they relate to each other. So nothing is different from the Supreme, but the Supreme is always different from everything. Lord Chaitanya's philosophy is that of inconceivable oneness and difference. The system of philosophy constitutes perfect knowledge of the Absolute Truth. So the living entity in its original position is pure spirit. It is just like an atomic particle of the Supreme Spirit. Not the end. In other words, the living entity is situated between the 2 energies of the Lord. And because he belongs to the superior energy of the Lord, he has a particle of independence. By proper use of that independence, he becomes under the direct order of Krishna. Thus he attains his normal condition in the pleasure-giving potency. So Arjuna asked Bhagavad Gita, and I became desireless. Yes. Now it's up to us. We have heard Bhagavad Gita. What are we going to do with it? Are we surrendering? Surrendering means we have to follow Krishna's instructions. Many times I meet Indian people in the West, and I ask them, do you know Bhagavad Gita? And they say, yes, we know Bhagavad Gita. But then you ask, what does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita? They don't know. Mostly they don't know. So we should know Bhagavad Gita and bring it in the practice in our lives. And our lives will become sublime, happy. Like Sanjaya was hearing, and he felt ecstasy at the end. He was remembering the conversation. And that is what we should do. Arjuna, later, when Krishna departed, just before he departed, he said to Patraka, I think his servant, tell Arjuna to bring my queens to Vrindavan. But on the way to Vrindavan with the queens, he was overwhelmed by coward men. But the big Arjuna no strength anymore. And then he went back to being defeated. He went back to Hastinapur, and he felt very morose, depressed, and Yudhishthira could see it. But then Arjuna was remembering what Krishna told him in Bhagavad Gita, and his strength came back. That he came out of the depression. So that's where the spiritual strength comes from. That Bhagavad Gita we should continuously read, never stop during our life. Always, every day, reading. That when I traveled with Prahlad Nanda Maharaj, he knows Bhagavad Gita by heart, the Sanskrit, the English translation, and he will tell you from each verse what Prabhupada says in the purport. But he's reading every day, one chapter, the Sanskrit and translation, and one purport every day, with great attention. And he does that his entire life. He never stopped doing that. And then you will benefit by these instructions. Because these are the basic instructions, and the practice of this is explained in the Bhagavatam and Nectar of Devotion and so on. So by that we are ending Bhagavad Gita. Any questions, please? I've put in the chat section a link. You can copy this link. This link leads you to a playlist on my YouTube channel, and this contains all the recordings of the sessions we had last 2 weeks. I just made it for you, because it's good to hear this again and again. Good. Any questions?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Guru Pranam.
Please.
Maharaj, I want to ask a question. Now that we have kind of finished the entire Bhagavad Gita, if I were to ask you this question, that let's say we have to describe Gita in a few sentences, the entire gist of Gita, I want to learn from you how you would explain Gita in a few sentences. Just want to learn from your experience. What is the best way to explain Gita in a few sentences? And I'm also asking this because sometimes people say that Gita is about emphasizing about one ashram. Some people say Gita is emphasizing about broad devotional service. So just want to understand from you how should one describe the gist of Bhagavad Gita?
The Bhagavad Gita explains the real nature of the self. This real nature of the self can be understood if we understand Krishna, because we are a part and parcel of Krishna. And our real nature lies in our relationship with the Absolute Truth, with Krishna. And that relationship is called devotional service. And this is the essence of our real self. What does everyone wants? Everyone wants to be loved, to love and to be loved. But we don't get that in this world. That the love is not pure, is selfish. But in our relationship with God, there we are exhibiting service in pure love. and that purifies the heart from lust, anger, greed, and so on, and brings us to our spiritual position, which is different from this body. So we realize we are different from this body, we are a spiritual living entity. And a spiritual living entity which is engaged in loving service to God. Now, how to attain this position, this spiritual position again, and transcend birth, death, and old age and disease, is explained in the instructions of Bhagavad Gita. The first level of understanding is Brahma Bhuta Pashanatmana Shostina Kangsin Samsavesha Bhutya Mad Bhaktim Labate Param, is understanding that we are a spirit soul and not this body. Our consciousness must come on the spiritual platform and stop identifying with the body. If one identifies with the body, one laments or hungers. So after realizing that, through devotional practice, one will come to the next level, which is realizing that we are not the only doer in this world, that there are all other factors, that everything is consisting out of material nature and is done by the super soul. So we learn to see God's hand in this world. And then after that, we come to the position that where we understand that this local aspect of God in this material world is an expansion of Krishna, who is the absolute truth, the controller of everything, and the controller of everything, and the source of everything. And his instructions are that we always think of him, try to love him by service, offer our respect to him, follow his instructions, and that we try to give this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita to others. And that leads us to the perfection of regaining our eternal life, an escape of the cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease, and going back to the spiritual world. So that is summary that I try to give from Bhagavad Gita. Does that help?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mike. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Something else? That you can also share realizations. You have heard the entire Bhagavad Gita now. What was your experience?
The most important, Maharaj, what I feel that hearing from such exalted and senior devotees, it's our privilege, and I think it's our fortune that we are able to hear and uh, assimilate the knowledge what all has been gathered by you all in so many years. So definitely it is very helpful, and the recordings we are having, definitely these will be very helpful for us in our future and to understand Bhagavad Gita in a deeper sense.
Yeah, I tried my best. It's Krishna's mercy that he sent you all so that I can speak Bhagavad Gita and share the little insights that I have. But, good. Anyway, there are no further questions or sharing. Then I feel grateful, and I thank the Mayapura Institute for having given me the opportunity to do that service. And I pray to Srila Prabhupada and all the Acharyas to bless you all, and while blessing you all, also to bless me, so that I can continue my service. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Jai Prabhupada. Haribol.
Thank you very much, Maharaj, for giving us your valuable time.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Thank you so much. Please accept our obeisances. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Haribol.